Hello everyone, and welcome back to the match. This is match 2 of the Titan Vial League. We are up against Cape 23, and we have won the dice roll. Opponent has revealed Lurrus of the Dream Den. So once again, the same as last time. This means generally the same things. Could be Boggles, could be Devoted Druid, could be Red-Black Prowess. One of the three. Or it could also be some Fringe deck. So, looking at this hand, we have a pretty quick hand here. We have a Vial into a Reclaimer. We have the Steve to block on 2. I think I'm going to keep this hand. This matchup is probably a pretty rough one if it's Red-Black Prowess, but hopefully we can get through it. Lead off with the Vial over the Reclaimer, because the Vial will pay for the Reclaimer next turn. Inspiring Vantage. Goblin Guide. This is just burn. It's a lot easier to deal with matchup, I think, than Prowess. Especially with that draw. That was a fantastic draw. A 3/4 Reclaimer is going to be a pretty big blocker here. Play the Fountain to negate the first attack from the Goblin Guide. That's fine. Dryad's a great draw next turn. We're going to have a pretty quick Titan here. Because that means we have a Titan rolled up for turn 4, I'm going to send the Steve and the Reclaimer in here and leave the Dryad back. I'm going to force him to be able to have the double bolt the Dryad to be able to kill it. As opposed to if I just block Eidolon, just being able to sack it. Because the Dryad is going to start bolting things here next turn. So it looks like Dryad's going to live. I'm going to build a Titan and grab 2 Valakuts here. Which is going to be lethal with this Windswept Heath for 6, 12, 18. I guess just the land is lethal, right? Because these are both going to come down and deal 12. So the Windswept Heath is going to kill them. And if they're pointing burn spells at the Dryad, I think we're pretty far ahead in that game. Yeah. So against burn, I definitely want Celestial Purge. Seems like a very strong card. Might have allowed him to gain some life, kill some Eidolons. Path to maybe. It's really awkward to ramp burn, though. You definitely don't want to do that. So in this matchup, I think you want to cut a lot of your nonsense. So Eternal Witness is nonsense. Nylea Excavator. Springbloom Druid seems like it would be nonsense, but it's actually just a fantastic card. Now that Armory's Call is probably too slow for this matchup. I think I'm finally cutting a tracker. This isn't generally a value matchup. I don't think we'll have any trouble outvaluing them. Our bone is on the play, and we're here for game 2. So this hand has a nice plan of Radiant Fountain plus Vesuva Radiant Fountain, but it's just not doing enough. If they just play a Goblin Guide or a Swift Spear or something, we're just going to die to that repeated damage, even though we're going to gain some life. So I'm going to have to mulligan. This hand seems fantastic. Knight of Autumn to gain life, Springbloom Druid to ramp us up. We got the Springbloom plus Flagstones combo. I think I like putting back Primeval Titan here. Interesting that they're still on the Mishra's Baubles, even though Lurrus costs 3 to play. Lurrus is just free in their deck anyways, so I can see them just playing a normal burn deck and playing Lurrus. It just seems strange to me that they still play Bauble. Develop our Ether Vial. Sanctuary is a fine pickup because it lets us develop our lands pretty cleanly here. Dryad's a payoff, so that's great. I was worried if we kept this hand, put back the Titan, that we just wouldn't be able to find a payoff, we'd lose. But the Valakut plus the Dryad is a payoff, so we definitely aren't worried about that this game. Seems like a pretty mediocre burn draw. Pretty mediocre burn draws can still get you a pretty large percentage of the time when you're playing these weird, like, toolboxy style decks. But this one may seem fine against, I think. The Reclaimer means I'm not going to tick up the Vial. I don't think. I'm just going to leverage it as a blocker. Get the Knight down and gain 4 life, because it still trades for the Goblin Guide in combat. Skullcrack here sucks. That's alright. Gonna pass the turn now and try to block this Goblin Guide with the Knight of Autumn. Alright, filing the Reclaimer. The Reclaimer is really nice here because we can use it to activate and go and grab a Radiant Fountain out of our deck. So I'm going to lead off on the Forest first because I always want to have 2 mana to pop the Dryad, or if he kills the Reclaimer in response. Is there a way that I can do that? I don't think there is, so I think if he just wants to waste a Lightning Bolt on my Reclaimer, I'm happy with that. This will be the instance where they have to bolt the Reclaimer if they don't want me to get a land. no attacks because I would prefer to not block with my Dryad. I want them to have the double bolted if they're going to kill my Dryad. It's fine. Alright. So, let's sack off flagstones and go and grab Radiant Fountain. If they have just that plus bolt, they got me. It's GG. That draw worked out pretty well for them, but I feel like that draw has to be a mulligan, where your best play on one is just Lava Spike plus Mishra's Bauble. They're lucky they drew into a Goblin Guide and those burn spells, but maybe they just had the double Skull Crack and they were trying to hedge into that. And it definitely worked out for them that time, but I don't think that gets there a lot of the time. You need that repeatable damage source on one. The mulligan, his hand's too slow. I guess last game, the way that I win that game is I go for a activation of the Reclaimer when they tap out for the Boros Charm. But I believe they still had 1 mana up, so in response they just still cast Lightning Bolt there and I die. I'm just dead to Lightning Bolt regardless, because it does too much damage. So Lightning Bolt plus Skull Crack is still just 6, so even if I Radiant Fountain to gain 2 life, I'm just still dead. I think his hand's really nice. Has a Corsair Kufix, has a Vial on one, a Radiant Fountain. I'm going to keep. And put back the second Vial. These are 2 of the cards that we want a lot of the time in the matchup. Corsair's just such a good blocker that also just doubles his extra life gain at a cheap mana cost. It's a much better start for my opponent this game. So you're going to know about our draw step this turn. Field of the Dead. That's actually a pretty awkward draw, because I can't play my Field of the Dead if I want to play my Corsair on 3, but I still need to draw a land to be able to even play my Corsair on 3, so I think I just need to lock up a 3-drop. Regardless, we can follow the Corsair on 4. That's a really bad draw. I'm going to go for the tracker here, because at least they had the pointed bolt at it to push the Swift Spear through. They lose 3 damage. If we can block, I'll take the block. The worst case here would be Searing Blaze. I think the best case would be add Lurrus to their hand. So they're making this attack. either having a spell or bluffing a spell, but I think I just have to block. Like, I'd rather soak up the 3 damage and let my tracker die even if they have the spell here. And if they were bluffing, we'll get a nice trade. Their spell could also be Skullcrack, which is why they're hesitant to fire it off, because they know we're going to have a Courser next turn. It's a Boros Charm. That's fine. Alright, let's take a draw step. Get 2 shots at a land here. Okay, it's not great. We can get these Reclaimers down, though, so they can get a Vesuva and get us another Radiant Fountain, which is good. So all we have to do now is try and live. These Reclaimers are going to get pretty big pretty fast, especially since we have another one coming off the top, which we can Vial in. That's a scary shock here. We're dead to Lava Spike plus Boros Charm. But if they have 3 Boros Charms, I guess we're dead. I am going to snap this block here if they attack. Should I probably even snap double block, to be honest. I think if they have to bolt one of our creatures, that's good for me. Okay. So I'm guessing we're not dead. They definitely, if we were dead, they definitely just would have fired it off. They don't add Lurrus to their hand. I think the only card their hand could be is Skullcrack, realistically. I think every other thing Lurrus gets added to their hand, because they can't prevent the life gain anyways. So I believe they must have a way to prevent the life gain. So there's the forest. I'm gonna play it. That I imagine will be met with a Skullcrack. Yep. Alright. Question is now, do I attack? I think the value of the Reclaimer is too high, since it gets us a Radiant Fountain to be willing to attack here. I think I just need to fade a draw step, potentially 2 draw steps, but if the second draw step needs to be, yeah, so we just need to fade 2 draw steps here, and if we don't, we die. Okay, so we're still alive. We're going to get a lot of life next turn if we live. We're going to build a Violent Reclaimer and activate one of these, get a Vesuva. If we want to do that, we can also go Radiant Fountain. Yeah, we just have a lot of plays next turn that are going to gain us life. Because we can Violent the Golos, get the Vesuva, copy the Radiant Fountain, use the Reclaimer, sack the Field of the Dead, get a bounce land, and replay the Radiant Fountain per turn. So put in the Reclaimer. Untap. Pick both these up. No, I don't think I'm really interested in drawing a land here. So I'm going to go for Golos. I have Vesuva. Copy the fountain. We'll draw another Reclaimer. That gains us 3 life. Well, I want to draw a Reclaimer. They're going to be pretty big pretty fast. So I think I do want to draw the Reclaimer. So I'm going to draw the Reclaimer. And we're going to crop rotation. Pitching the forest. Get Selesnya Sanctuary. Gain a life. Pick up the fountain. Gain 2 more life. Gain 3 life. And then play a Reclaimer and attack for 2. I think we're pretty safe here at 8. A Boros Charm would have been fired off last turn to kill us, and the only way we die is 2 Boros Charms. So they definitely didn't have that before, so I don't think they have it now. Alright, we've beaten Burn.